Today, we see a diversity in how characters are portrayed between television and media. As attitude towards race and same-sex marriage change today, the media seems to follow as well. But what the film industry and media fails to learn and continue to do is make a script full of stereotypes and tropes that began in the early 19th century. As we know, stereotypes oversimplify a group or certain people that society still hold on to today. Media plays a big role in portraying certain images or group of people, and when they use stereotypes, we get these social constructions of one's identity that impacts how we perceive someone based on their race, gender, sexual orientation, and other intersectionality. It is important to examine and discuss this topic because stereotypes in the mainstream media aren't true. That's where the term good representation comes in. Having good representation in the media is important because it is someone or something a certain audience can relate to. When we talk about representation, we don't mean another stereotype. We mean portraying something, usually a group, the right way. Unfortunately, we still struggle to see better representation today. A common trend in film we still see today is stereotypes on race, on gender, and even sexual orientation. In 1975, a movie that originated from a 1973 musical called The Rocky Horror Picture Show appealed to the people, primarily the LGBT community, because it was one of the first films to show and support genderqueer and that it was okay to question our identities. However, some aren't pleased with the movie or musical because it still has harmful tropes about transgender people that affects views on trans identity. A common trope that fails to represent for the LGBT community is the gay death trope. When I mean a death trope of lesbians and gay characters, I literally mean the majority of the LGBT characters are being written off. The most iconic character that started a revolution is the character Lexa, played by Alicia Debnah-Carey, who plays a lesbian character that dies right after a love scene with her partner Clark, played by Eliza Taylor. The reason why Lexa's death started a revolution was mainly because the LGBT community had thought they were getting a good representation until Lexa's death. Now you might be asking,
but Lexa was representing as lesbian in the show. Doesn't that count?
No. What we mean by good representation, we mean to have the LGBT characters survive and live happily away from these tropes and mainstream stereotypes. But then again, multiple production companies, like the CW, failed to do so. Stereotypes and tropes are known to create or advance a story, and what had happened to the character Lexa was to shock viewers and to supposedly increase the views. But what privileged film producers and directors and even writers fail to see is that it has impacted real people negatively, especially those who identify under the LGBT community, that seek representation to not feel alone. Tropes makes us question if lesbians are only there to advance a plot and if they'll ever get their happy endings. Do you realize how f***ed up that is? We repeatedly see the same death tropes in films, like in a popular TV show called Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where the character Tara is wounded by a stray bullet right after a romantic bed scene with her partner Willow. And the character Pussy Washington in the show called Orange is the New Black, who was suffocated by a white male prison guard. Also, in the show Game of Thrones, a character named Loras Tyrell was guilty for loving another man and even killed during his testimony. The film industry is starting to slowly bury tropes and stereotypes by displaying characters opposing to the traditional roles that mainstream media are starting to reconstruct today. We will continue to see stereotypes followed by the media, but the best thing we can do is be aware of it and don't support film productions and companies who obviously continue to use these harmful tropes and stereotypes. Another thing you can do is to educate your peers that good representation is important because it helps those who seek reassurance, whether it's about their gender, their sexual orientation, or just wanting to be viewed as correct for what the media mistaken them to be as. These little things can make a big impact and difference in what we see in film in the future. So please, if you still cannot understand why stereotypes and tropes are bad, go f*** yourself. Thank you.